So I've been seeing a lot of posts lately from my friends, and I don't know if it's because of the climate and stuff that's going on out there, but basically posts around feeling frustrated, feeling big negative emotions, anger in particular, even rage, and what to do with those feelings, what to do with those emotions. Yeah, I've been seeing some of those conversations pop up. I've been popping in here and there, and I just wanted to give my take or just some thoughts that I have on specifically on the topic of anger and handling anger, navigating anger, expressing anger, and ultimately alchemizing anger. And I can remember when I first arrived in Edmonton back in 2012, and I was at Nourish, beloved Nourish, we miss Nourish, down in the Kiva, and there was a visioning workshop going on. And one of the things that came up for me at that time was one of the things that I wanted was to understand how to handle anger or how to find a way through my anger. And that's something I've over the last decade, I've really taken to heart, and that I've worked with to quite an extent. There's been lots of opportunities for working through and digging into anger in particular. And the reason it was up for me right then is I'd just gotten back from India and Bali. I'd just gotten back from 4 years on the road. And up until that point, I didn't actually know, this is going to sound, maybe naive. I didn't actually know that I had anger, that I was angry. And up until that point, I'd suppressed my anger so much. I'd always thought of myself as a sad person or more of a depressed person. And it was so denied within me, and for various reasons. I don't know about you, but, my perception in spiritual communities is that anger is very frowned upon. It's not talked about. It's something that's, in my opinion, perceived as very, pretty negative. Hey guys. And even I can remember, times way back where I was actually way back, where I was basically, my expression of pain and anger was shut down because it wasn't nice. Nice girls don't do that, or it was bugging other people, that kind of thing. I can remember that and my perception of that. And I think I really took that to heart. And so, yeah, deeply suppressed my anger. I don't know if that's your experience, if you're popping on here, and I'd love to hear what your experience with anger is, and your perception of that is. So basically, going to India, traveling, really awakened a lot of things for me. And here's what I've come to realize with all of this is that emotions of all kinds are energy. They're energy in motion. And when we suppress emotions, we suppress all of them, right? So we can't just suppress the negative, quote unquote, negative ones. We can't just suppress the anger. We can't just kind of sweep it under the carpet, because what happens is we end up exhausting. It's exhausting to do that. By the way, it's really tiring. And then we end up cutting off that energy supply. Okay. Anger is an amazing form of Shakti, as I would call it, right? Or energy, life force. And so when it's suppressed, when it's denied, we can't access our passion. We can't access deep joy. It gets harder and harder to do that. And there's lots of reasons in terms of why we don't go there. And it's not necessarily, we're not to blame for not going there. And I'm also not saying that we should walk around and just puke our anger, cathartic all over, everybody, or negative, whatever negative emotions those are. Instead, the invitation is to take it into practice. I'm also not saying that we don't want to share with others or situations that provoke emotions, that we never want to talk about, that we never want to share those emotions, that we never want others to understand the impact of their actions or their words or whatnot, right? What I am saying is that what's important to do with that is to, rather than try to bypass or pretend it's not there, or or sweep it under the carpet, that becomes such an opportunity for a sacred practice within. And one of the best ways I've found for doing that is to get embodied with it, and to use a beautiful instrument that you've been birthed with, your voice, your body. Where is that anger resting in my body? How can I move into it? How can I step into it? How can I give it a posture? What does it look like in me? And more importantly, what does it sound? What does it, that's a little version of it. What does it sound like in me? And children and animals do this really well. They're very instinctual with their emotions, and watching Raphael, trust me, there's not that filter that a lot of us come to have around our emotions, for better or worse, right? I'm not saying that we need to walk around and just like blah or our stuff all over people. However, we also, it's not of our benefit. It's not of service to ourselves and to anyone else for us to just pretend that we don't have anger, that things don't make us frustrated, that things don't make us rageful, because there's a lot of stuff out there that can create those emotions. And what the invitation is to, doesn't even need to be much, to come into a practice where you're actually giving yourself permission to acknowledge, even that might be where you're at. You might just be at that point where I was before India, of going, okay, I might actually be angry. I might actually have anger, because before I went to India, no, I wasn't an angry person. I was like, oh, a gentle, kind, sad person, right? Okay. So, you might be at that point of acknowledging. You might be at that point of like, okay, I've acknowledged, now I'm ready to feel it. I'm ready to experience it. I'm ready to like start practicing it. That's cool too. But what can also happen with that is like, I get into the anger and I'm expressing it and I get stuck and I'm just like angry for hours. And like, we don't want that either. So then what the next process is moving through to the other side, right? Allowing that anger to not stay anger, to there's actually something else that the gift of the emotions, the gift of the energy is bringing to you. So coming more and more into that. Sometimes that takes support and guidance. I mean, for me, absolutely it did. It's not always something you can do on your own. It's not always something that you want to do on your own. Sometimes it's easy to wade out into that ocean of emotions and spin around and around and around. And so, yeah, we need some life rafts or like lighthouses or whatever metaphor you want to use for other people. But I would strongly suggest an embodied practice with your emotions. They're going to really help, at least they have for me, to access the power, the strength, the energy, the Shakti, just more, so that there's more available. Okay. That's basically my take on it. That's what I wanted to have to say. And within that, I am stepping into an offering that involves coming into the embodiment of expression. So I'm calling it My True Voice Unleashed. And a big part of it is around accessing embodiment and voice and breath, around emotions of all kinds, around experiences of all kinds, in order to allow for that alchemy and allow for that transformation, to allow for our true beingness so we can connect with it within ourselves and see it within ourselves, and then also to start to hold that message more and more in the world. So if you are still here, I'd love to hear what your take is on big emotions for you, and even what you've found to be useful for you, what you found to work for you. If you have questions about the vocalizing the embodiment practice, and if you want to know more about what I'm starting to do with people, I'd love to hear from you. This is a topic I'm passionate about because I can get passionate because I'm that way, and I'm owning those emotions and allowing them to be there and allowing them to be transformed in beautiful ways. And I'm going to talk about this some more with you. So thanks for tuning in. Love to hear your thoughts.